that was, I mean, that was so important to me. And that wasn't in the for early drafts of the script, the sibling piece. And I literally went back to the network and said, we can't make this movie if we don't have this conversation. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be,
Wow.
doesn't have to be a long, it can be just be one scene,
Yeah, sure.
but they gave us several scenes and we had a really strong, meaty story arc for our actress Hilda, who had never acted before. Can you believe that?
We have the awesome pleasure and honor of speaking with the star actors in the new Hallmark film, Our Christmas Journey, a story about a family and how autism affects each person in the family. A story Ben and I relate to very strongly.
Yes.
Our guests are Holly Robinson Peete, a woman who has done it all from writing 2 books to starring in over 100 roles through her TV and movie career. None of these accomplishments have stopped her from also being a strong mother and loving wife. An advocate for autism after her son, Rodney Jr., was diagnosed at 3. Holly and her husband, Rodney, formed the Holly Rod Foundation to help families affected by autism. Her co-star, Nik Sanchez, is making his own waves as he rises up the acting ladder, starting classes at age 5. He debuted and stars in ABC's The Rookie for the past 2 years, and Nik is making history as the first actor with autism playing an autistic character in a Hallmark film.
Woo!
Nik describes himself as awesomely autistic, which is a statement I think I could have heard Ben saying once or twice, I
Like
swear.
a superhero.
And instead of letting autism maybe weigh him down, he uses it and to overcome his challenges, which is really the heart of our show.
Yeah.
The idea of raised typical. We spell it RAZED, which means to destroy, because Ben has pretty consistently destroyed typical for us.
Yeah.
And it almost always ends up being some kind of positive outcome. And so, guys, thank you so much for being on the show. We are so lucky to have you, and it's a blast, and we're excited to talk to you.
I'm excited too. I'm just crying. I like have tears in my eyes. I'm like,
Well, I'm so excited to be here and to be talking about this movie, which we could not have made if it weren't for Nik Sanchez. So I give him all the props and the credit because it'd been one thing to do a movie and hire an actor to play this character, but Nik had brought such an awesome level of experience and just professionalism and so many other things and just talent to this part, and it gave us the opportunity to tell a story. As you said, autism affects the entire family, and it was important to tell all those stories in this one movie, and that was what I am the most proud of.
Yeah.
That we were able to tell so many stories in a very short period of time. I felt the weight of the world, to be honest, to try to at least tell enough stories so that people, especially in the autism community, would feel seen in this movie. And I think we definitely did that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So actually, my first question, Holly, is for you. And with the movie Our Christmas Journey, there, as you said, there's a lot of themes and kind of emotions that are in and through it all, and you get a lot of good perspectives from different characters who portray different parts of the family. But my question is, when it comes to those emotions and themes that may reflect your real life as it does reflect our real life, did that make it easier to act or harder to act in this movie?
Oh, but having real life experience in it, it made
Yeah.
it much easier.
Yeah.
It made it much easier because I understood the nuances of who this character is because she was basically me. I
Sure.
mean, she really was. I mean, I think Lena was maybe a little bit more rigid than I am. I mean, Lena was really like a helicopter mom.
Sure.
Um, but I relate to her in so many ways. what I loved was having this storyline of having been divorced,
Mm.
and which obviously I'm not, but we had our struggles
Yeah,
as a
sure.
real life, while we were raising this young man and just dealing with all kinds of other stuff. And so I love the fact that, the dad comes back to go, you know what, I got this great idea, and he keeps pushing this idea to help his son. He feels kind of guilty that he wasn't there for
Yeah,
him, and now he's making up for that. So all that is to say, the answer to your question is, it made it definitely much easier. But again, I was just telling one story. It might have been different for someone else, but
sure,
having that experience made it more authentic, I think.
sure, sure. Um, Ben, I think you got the next question, right?
Did you want it? Did you go?
Yeah, we'll
That's
we'll
fine.
skip that one for now.
I can actually
but-
ask this question.
Yeah.
I believe when I was searching on the internet, your first show was Sesame Street. I grew up watching Sesame Street. I loved Elmo, but I love Julia. They have a character in there who has autism, which is really incredible. It feels like we got some great reputation for kids with on the spectrum, helping kids understand that autism is not a bad thing. I love speaking at schools and helping understand autism. What are some ways that you can think that we can educate our kids on autism and inclusion?
Well, I'm glad you brought up Julia, because that was a game changer. And my
Yeah.
experience on Sesame Street, it was a full circle moment. I was honored to be asked by Sesame Street to introduce Julia. When she was first announced on the show, I went to Capitol Hill, and I actually introduced her, and that was great because my dad was the original Gordon and started it, and
Yeah,
all the whole thing. So it's just like, oh my gosh, this is a full circle moment. So I love that we have that representation, because I'll tell you, if when RJ was 3, 4 years old and we had Julia to watch, that would have
yeah,
been a game changer for him growing up. It would have been a game changer for him going to school, because those kids, his peers, would have some exposure to autism. So loving that, and absolutely thrilled to do that. But I think the biggest thing that we can all do, is what you said, is go out, talk to people. I'm so excited, I keep trying to tell Nik that he's going to be one of the best speakers on the circuit, because he has such a great story and he's so
Yeah.
articulate. And but I think getting out, talking to people, using your platform to advocate, all of those things help bring awareness and acceptance and crush the stigma of autism.
yeah. That's something Ben consistently and recently has been talking in schools about his story, and I just think, like you said, it just really helps normalize in a way that is tangible for students, because I think it's really easy to think, oh, that's somewhere else, or that's like, no, I'm not dealing with that directly. But as soon as Ben comes into school, or Nik goes into school and speaks, it makes it right there. It's like, oh, okay, like this is something that I can digest and experience,
Yeah.
which is great. So
Yeah.
we got a question for Nik, right?
I
Ben?
do. I have a great question for Nik. Nik, I know you have autism, and I have autism as well. I love acting. You know what, Nik? I did theater when I was in middle school and high school. I saw you started acting classes at the age of 5. What was the process like to get your first acting role?
Well, I started classes at 5, but I stopped shortly after, and I tried to get professionally until a little over 2 years ago. My first role, as you guys know, is the ABC's The Rookie. It came after a lot of auditions. I had to go through almost a year of auditions without callbacks, but because of COVID, it was actually a lot easier because I didn't have to go somewhere. Self-tapes made it so much easier for me because I can go at my own pace. My mom was there reading for me. And like when I read the script for Silas, I immediately knew that it was like basically me. But all I had to really worry about was just remembering the lines, and that was pretty much it. And luckily the ABC really liked me, and yeah, it just went up from there.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, well, it's one of those things that, as we're saying, we hope to see more and more of. And Ben's got a question about it later on. But Ben has consistently joked. I say joked. For him, it's very serious. That he wants his life to be a movie. And if I know anything about Ben, it's that at one point it may happen. And so it's cool to see films and studios being more open and accepting and looking for people to play those roles for sure. Now, another thing that Ben loves is Christmas. And Holly, we saw this in an interview that you did on Ryan and Kelly. Ben wants to keep stuff like this up year round.
Yes.
And I am always the naysayer. But we saw that you have your Christmas tree up year round, or Christmas decorations at least. How does your family react to that?
My kids get really embarrassed when they bring their friends over and it's like August and 95 degrees outside, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, your mom's Christmas tree is still up." But it really only went up or stayed up by default. It's because we put it up in 2020. 2020 was a rough year for everyone. And then I went off to go make some movies in Vancouver in Canada. And then like I didn't take the tree down, partially because I didn't have time. But then everybody offered to take it down, but I didn't want them breaking my ornaments because I had cherished my ornaments. So I was like, I don't want you guys touching my ornaments. And I don't, nobody put, I'm like an anal Virgo mom. So I'm like, nobody puts my ornaments back right.
I love you.
So I was like, yeah, no, it's like, okay, just nobody puts them back right. So they're not coming down until I take them down. And of course, next thing I know is September, it's October. I'm like, well, shoot, we might as well leave it up now. So it just really stayed up for a full year. I don't know that I'm going to go into 2022 with it up. I think the kids are like, might come to me like pulling the intervention on me on that. But I actually enjoyed having it up all year. It was a rough, weird year, and it made me happy to see the tree. It just made me happy to see it. And so I loved it. And I have this really cool Balsam Hill tree too that's like called Twinkly, and it's got this you can do all the LED lights in any pattern you want.
Yeah, I've seen some of those.
Oh my God, this tree is insane. And
so cool.
And you can design your own pattern. Anyway, I love it. So yeah, don't think I'll do it through 2022. I think I'm going to put it down after the first, like maybe the second week of the new year. But it's been fun having it up.
I love it.
And I love your ornaments. I like your Santa ornaments I saw on Kelly and Ryan.
Yeah.
I like my black Santas. I collect all these like chocolate Santas.
Yep.
And I'm kind of obsessed with them because, when I was growing up, shoot, honey, Santa was black to me and my dad explained to me, he was like, I was like, Mom, Dad, is Santa black? They said he's the color of the person that's giving you Christmas gifts. And so I always thought Santa was, brown because my dad and mom were giving me. So I used to I collect them, and I love my collection.
I love it. Yeah, Ben had a question if we had extra time about that. But he had mentioned that you kind of scour eBay to find and I love it. It's amazing.
Dan would go on my car in a minute.
Yeah. We have a tradition where our parents every year from 1 through 18, we would go to Hallmark the day after Christmas and we'd pick out an ornament. And that was just something. And then, my older brother just got a house. And so Mom took all his ornaments and, there you go. There's your 18 ornaments.
Oh, nice. Yeah. He can have his own Christmas over there. That's
Yep.
so cool.
He has his own tree. And,
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so our next question is one that I think the movie addresses in a couple different ways. But I'm gonna let you ask it. Don't worry, Ben. But it's something that I think in the movie we talk about Nik's character experiencing it, and in real life Ben's definitely experienced it, and I'm sure RJ probably has as well. But Ben, go ahead. Why don't you
So I was gonna say, Nik, this is for Nik and Holly. I have found it hard to make close, deep friendships. As an actor who lives in the public eye, how do you manage friendships? I know someone is a real friend. What are some tools that you use for making friendships?
Well, first of all, I do agree with that. It is hard to make and especially keep friends. I've struggled with that a lot of my life, and I'm very a trustworthy person, which isn't always a good thing, especially when it comes to certain types of people. I mean, right now my mom's helpful for making sure that I'm talking to the right people and I'm safe when I'm meeting friends and stuff like that. But I'm definitely working on trying to get better at forming relationships and connecting with others.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would say probably with RJ, very similar scenario. He didn't really have a lot of friends most of his young life. And there was like one friend who was really focused, and I just saw it was really there for him. But he really didn't have a whole lot of friends. It wasn't until he got this job with the Dodgers, ironically, that he all of a sudden now has like, oh, I'm going to horror nights with, I'm like, who are you going to horror nights with? Oh, my boys, like, so
I love it.
he's gotten like a dugout, a clubhouse full of friends now. And it's really great, which is one of the reasons why at our foundation, we try to help young people get jobs, because it really does create a team around you, not just,
Yeah.
Pun intended, like it creates, a kind of a network of friends, which that he didn't have at school. And it was really hard for him to make friends at school.
Yeah.
And he experienced some bullying and those types of things. So I would say the tips though, Ben, would be probably just to try to cultivate friendships in many different ways. And I think now, and RJ didn't have this growing up as a young kid, social media is a good way to do it. I mean, obviously there's some pitfalls and some things that you got to watch out for, but you can create some pretty good relationships socially that don't always involve the, being in front of someone. And I think for some of our kids in our community, that is a good thing, because some kids really struggle with eye contact and the connectivity. And sometimes the screen right here gives a nice little buffer, and you don't feel quite as judged. So I think now more than ever, it's easier to maybe make some friends through social media and make some connectivity. But for RG, it was definitely a struggle.
I was just gonna say one thing. So I met a group called the Ed Asner Family Center, and I'm friends with Nava and Matt, and they do movie chat, and that's how I met them through a Zoom.
Yes,
that's one of my favorite organizations. Ed was a very, very good friend of ours, and we supported each other a lot. And just still really hurt to have lost him. But
yeah,
Matt is a great friend too. I've known him for probably 30 years, and they're just a great family. So yeah, there's people out there, that are looking for friends, and it's pretty cool that I'm glad to hear that you're friends with them.
Yeah, and Chelsea does a great job with the movie chat.
Yeah,
so she is just incredible.
Yeah, it's definitely something that is so true. I'm that cusp, right, of the generation where like technology was coming out as I was growing, and so I'm 26.
Okay.
And so, like when I was in 8th grade, the first iPod Touch came out, and we kind of saw the progression of Facebook and things like that. And so I definitely see that. But I don't always think about it as like the great way to develop friendships. And it's definitely something that I could see my clients, but also Ben using very well. As you know, he already tried, got you to follow him on Instagram.
Yeah. I'll be following you right after this, Ben.
I know.
And so yeah.
So this is for Nik and Holly. So I wrote to Hallmark in January 2021 to see if you guys can make a Christmas movie about autism. Well, I was doing company work one day when I saw you guys doing this. I was over the moon. My dream came true. And I wanted to see if Hallmark can make more movies about autism and a love story about autism, two couple meeting. So I won't get into that later. But that had autism. But what was the process to get this movie approved?
Well, it was we pitched some movies similar to this a few years ago, and it was not greenlit. And I was feeling some kind of way about that. But now I'm so glad that the timing wasn't right then, and there's a new regime there, and there's a lot of changes over there.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to do this movie. It was on my top of my bucket list to make a movie like this. And this is, like my 8th or 9th Hallmark Christmas movie. And I was like, okay, I want to do something. I love all the Christmas movies. They're like kids, I love them all. But this is my favorite because, again, we were able to bring so many conversations to the table about autism and how it impacts the family. But went to them. We literally got on a Zoom like this. And with my production partner, Orly, we went to them with a story. And we pitched it. And then they were like, well, who are you going to get to play your son? Now, at that point, RJ was like, oh, I can do it. Because he was like, am I going to get a paycheck? I was like, yes. Like, I want to do it. But then I'm like, no, it's October. It's like October is baseball month, right?
Mhm.
Playoffs. I'm like, you can't come. And then it just so happened that, my friends, Boris Kojo and his wife, Nicole Ari Parker, were doing a movie in Baltimore. And they called me and they go, oh, we're working with this young man and blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh my God, I need him. Like, tell him he's got to come do my movie right after yours.
I
And that's
love
really
it.
literally how it happened. Nik was shooting another movie that's going to air next. I'm Nik's agent now and his mom. And the movie's going to air next year. And Nik, you'll tell us more about that if you have more information. But and was just so excited because I knew this movie could not be made without Nik Sanchez. Like
I love it.
I was not going to hire an actor to play this part unless this is an actor who really understood what it was like to be on the spectrum and all that stuff. So anyway, that was pretty much it. Once we got, that was the movie get greenlit, but then it was like, okay, now we got to cast this thing.
Right.
And getting Nik was the biggest piece. And I was just like, call him and offer him the part. He doesn't have to audition. He just needs to just say yes.
I love it.
I love it.
That was really cool. And then again, the rest of it all fell into place. We really went out there, Orly and I, my production partner and I we're like, okay, we're going to cast this thing, but it's like all of it just came together. And so again, cast Hilda, who played Nik's sister, who never really had a role like that before. She crushed it.
Yeah.
Lyriq, who played my husband, was just amazing. Or my ex-husband, I should say, was amazing. And then Aloma Wright, who played my mom, like we got her at the last minute, and she brought all the glue.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
Yeah, she was awesome. And Caroline, and Graham, who played the other mother son.
Yeah.
That storyline, it all was amazing. So that was pretty much the thing. And then when it aired, I watched it a couple times, and then I don't usually love to watch myself on movies, but I just love this movie so much.
Yeah. No, I think it's, as Ben said, he has it in his brain, an autism love story. So who knows? Maybe
that could be the next. That could be the next chapter. So who knows? And maybe I'll be calling Nik to do that. But that is definitely Nik's like, I'm not doing that. No kissing you, Nik.
No, not ready yet.
Take your time. I'll wait for you.
That's all right. It's good to have those boundaries, Nik. That's all right. So actually, it's interesting, Nik, that we've been talking about this, because it's my next question for you, and it's something that I'm very interested in. Is for Ben, around the house or chores or whatever, we're always trying to give him direction. So I'm wondering, on set, how do you handle direction from the directors? And then is there any advice you would give directors when it comes to working with someone with special needs?
Well, first of all, I actually, handle the directions pretty well, on set. And when I'm in the atmosphere, it's really easy for me to stay focused. But sometimes if they use a certain vocabulary, or they sound a certain way, it might take me a moment to process it, or
Sure.
I may just stand there, freeze, and wait, what did you just say? Or just shut down for a second. But that's why I really appreciate my mom always being there, because she always rephrases it in my kind of language, and she always helps you understand everything, and she tells the director or whoever's giving me directions to tell my mom that I don't understand, so that she will come to me and make sure that I understand. And a lot of times she explains things way better than anyone else can. Because she's my mom.
Yeah,
she
right.
knows me. Anyone else knows me, even myself. But after that, everything just clicks, and I just keep on going.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Something that has been a new phrase around here. We've been calling it momager for mom manager. But it's interesting. I never thought about that kind of almost translator. Because that's something that for sure has been prevalent in our experience with Ben. Is someone's interacting with Ben, and he's like, I'm just totally lost, and either me, my mom, my dad have to step in and be like, hey, this is what's going on, and then Ben's like, oh, okay, I got it.
I just get excited about things.
Yeah. Ben definitely does get excited about things.
Nik, I couldn't even sleep last night. I couldn't.
Is too excited to talk to you guys.
All right, so this is for Holly. I heard RJ works for the Dodgers, and I work for the Philadelphia Eagles as a game day staff. And amazing, more amazing. And we need more sports teams that should hire more people with disabilities. And I know the Eagles do about the Eagles Autism Foundation. Shout out to Ryan Hammond and everybody at the Eagles Autism. What are some advice that you would give employers, or companies to hiring people with special needs or employees?
Well, first of all, I did not know that you worked for the Eagles on game day. That is so awesome. That's
You have to
my
come
team.
visit me in Pepsi Plaza.
Yeah.
Listen, that's my team. You know, I was born and bleed Eagle green.
I love it.
So I love that. I love me some Eagles. And then when my husband became the quarterback of the Eagles, that was like a whole surreal experience.
Yeah, right.
And I'm glad my dad was around to see that, because nobody was a bigger Eagles fan than my dad. But yeah, I mean, when you hire inclusively, you definitely improve your workplace. And I'm absolutely thrilled that the Dodgers hired RJ, because they understood that hiring inclusively really, it builds a winning team, and it gives the opportunity for employers to hire people who think outside the box. Not everybody processes things the same way, and that diversity of thinking and that neurodiversity that's an asset to any company.
Yeah.
So I'm always telling the companies that we work with at Holly Rod, like whether it's Cigna or Outback Steakhouse or CVS Pharmacy, like we're always like that steak, Ben.
Yeah, I love that steak and sweet potato. But
Yeah,
CVS is a great store too.
It's that bloomin' onion. It's a bloomin' onion for me. But that we place a lot of people there, and when you have that kind of diversified employee pool and workplace, it's a very good thing. And they can not only be a good employee, but sometimes your best employee. I mean, RJ is such a good employee there. They love him so much. And it's a game changer for him. But yes, I'm always impressed what we do at Hollywood. Basically, we knock down the doors of big corporations and tell them they have to hire, our kids and hire these young people. And it really has been really gratifying work.
Yeah, no, it's so true. It's so important. And even you said, it builds friendships. But also with Ben speaking at schools, we talked about it, and the reason we're pushing it and doing this company thing is because it's what Ben wants to do. And ultimately, I want Ben in a job that he's going to enjoy, not just, a thing for a paycheck. Like I want him to enjoy what he does.
Yeah. It's meaningful employment. I mean, it's about, listen, all the packing groceries and bagging groceries is a great job too.
Yeah.
But there are all sorts of things that, people that are on the spectrum can do.
Yeah.
And I just think now, RJ was diagnosed 20 years ago. And so it's changed so much. 20 years ago, you couldn't find any organization shouting out that they hire inclusively. So things have changed. And I think that's a great thing. When RJ got, when he was 3, you guys know the story. He was told all these things he would never do. And one of them was meaningful employment, and he would never drive.
That's
amazing. And so as we say in the business, to smash cut to RJ getting presented his World Series ring by a bunch of, superstar baseball players who just love him like a little brother. It's just pretty cool. So
I love that. I love that.
I drive, Holly. I could drive out to California. I'm just kidding.
Come on.
There you go. There you go.
Get on the highway. Come on out
Ben,
here.
what did you do for the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl?
I carried the trophy, and I was a guest on the Ellen show.
Yeah, so he carried the trophy for the Lombardi Trophy for the ring ceremony for the Eagles.
And you went on Ellen?
With John Dornbos, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I love that.
I thought you'd appreciate the Eagles the win of the Super Bowl for sure.
Have you ever heard of the Eagles Autism Foundation?
Oh yeah, we've come and spoken for them. And remember Rodney, played for them, and so we're friends with the Luries and
Awesome.
the owners, and so we've worked extensively and partnered our organizations with them. So they do great work. We partnered with American Airlines and an event that we do called "It's Cool to Fly American" with them as well in Philly, and that was really cool. Yes, a great organization.
Yeah. Well, I know we're rapidly kind of approaching that timeline here, and so what I want to do for you guys is just kind of give you the floor for anything you've got going on. I know obviously the movie, but anything else that you may want to talk about. We're just kind of rolling out the red carpet for you guys. So
Go ahead.
Feel free
The
to,
floor is yours.
open up.
You go, Nick. Nick, do you have an air date for your Lifetime movie yet?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And second of all, yes, I do. It comes out on January 15th on Lifetime. Yeah, check your local listings.
Okay.
What's it called?
It's called Safe Room.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And yeah, and I mean, I'm so grateful again to my friends Boris and Nicole who, you know, who introduced me to Nick, because it was a game changer for our movie. And yeah, and I'm working on getting ready to release actually it's going to be our fourth book.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. What was
Yeah,
the third one?
Well, we did. Well, we the first book I wrote was called "Get Your Own Damn Beer and Watching the Game."
Right.
It was a guide to loving pro football,
Right.
and it needs to be updated. I wrote it before social media. I wrote it like
Sure.
back in the day.
Yeah.
I think it was still like Veteran Stadium was still up, right?
Okay.
That's how long ago it was. But yeah, we've written My Brother Charlie and Same But Different, which is a kind of middle school version of My Brother Charlie.
Gotcha.
And then following up My Brother Charlie with a book called Charlie Makes a Splash, and it talks about kids with autism and water and how they love water.
Yeah.
And water safety and some of those things. So that'll be out April, I believe. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll have to come back and talk to you guys about that book.
Yeah.
Can I mention something? My mom is actually writing a book.
True.
And
she
is a great author. She is incredible. You have to. She hasn't found a.
I'm sure our mother is currently beet red because she would hate that we're even talking about it. But
mom has these kids that are advocating for her and doing her press. When you write a book, Mom, that's what you need. You need people to talk about it all the time. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah. So that's the process right now. But it's about Ben, and we have way too many funny stories, as I'm sure you have with RJ. You and your husband, I'm sure, have a million stories. But it's called Swinging from the Chandelier.
Because I swung from a chandelier when I was 5 years old.
Swinging from the
Tell
chandelier.
me you have a photo or video of you swinging from the chandelier.
I'm sure my mom can find one, and we'll send it to you. We'll send it to you.
That's your cover art right there.
For sure. Well, both of you, Nick and Holly, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time.
This has felt like Christmas morning. It literally did. I was in my Christmas Snoopy jammies last night. I was just like ready to go. I have my Snoopy right here.
I love it. And you know, our Christmas journey is going to be re-airing many times between now and Christmas Day. And actually, it's Nick's mom that told me last night that it's going to be airing on Christmas morning as well. So
awesome.
Everybody check out our Christmas journey.
Yes.
I think you're going to really love it. You don't have to be touched or affected by autism to love this movie.
Right.
And I think I'm really just super proud of it.
Yeah.